Somewhere right now, someone is standing in their kitchen holding a granola bar like it's a legal document, squinting at the calorie count like it's about to confess to a crime. 140 calories, written in stone, handed down from the mountain. They've already done the math for the day, subtracted it from their budget, and mentally filed it under handled. Except, plot twist, it isn't handled. That cheerful little number on the label is less of a fact and more of a polite suggestion, and honestly, it's been lying to you with a completely straight face this whole time, and so is practically everything else involved in the entire calorie counting process. Quick disclaimer before the pitchforks come out, that 90% in the title isn't a peer-reviewed statistic somebody carved onto a tablet. Think of it as a dramatic estimate, the kind a friend uses when they say everyone agrees with them. What is real, and what we're about to walk through, is a genuinely long list of ways the entire calorie counting system quietly fails almost everybody who's ever tried it, usually without anyone noticing. So let's put the whole system on trial. Exhibit A through Exhibit E. Order in the kitchen. Act 1. The label is legally allowed to lie to you. The FDA lets food companies print a calorie count that's off by up to 20% in either direction and still call it accurate. 20%! That means your innocent 100-calorie snack pack could actually be sitting at 120, just legally, with a permission slip signed by an entire regulatory agency. One study on popular snack foods found the actual calorie content ran higher than the label on average, mostly because the carbs were undercounted. So that granola bar isn't lying to your face exactly. It's more like it's technically telling the truth in the way a teenager tells you they were basically home by curfew. Act 2. Restaurants are where accuracy goes to die. If packaged food has a 20% leash, restaurant food is just off the leash entirely, running through the neighborhood. Research comparing restaurant menu calorie listings to what meals actually contained found swings of 100 to 300 calories from what was printed, depending on the cook, the portion, the day, and apparently the mood of whoever was holding the olive oil bottle that day. Fast food chains tend to be more consistent, since a machine measures the fries, not a human with a heavy pour hand. Sit-down restaurants, though, are basically improvising a new dish every single time, and your calorie app has no idea. Act 2.5, because this one deserves its own tiny trial. The serving size printed on the package is often a work of pure fiction. Somewhere, a committee decided that a serving of chips is 11 chips, which is a number no human being has voluntarily stopped at since the invention of chips. You eat the bag, you log 1 serving. The bag was quietly 4 servings the entire time, snickering at you from the pantry. This isn't the label lying about its own accuracy, it's the label being technically honest about a portion size that exists purely in a laboratory, never in real life, and definitely never at 11 o'clock at night. Act 3. The app on your phone is only as smart as the strangers who built its database. A huge chunk of the food entries in popular calorie tracking apps aren't verified by a lab, they're submitted by random users, which means somewhere in that database is a homemade lasagna logged by someone who clearly had a very different relationship with cheese than you do. You search chicken salad, pick the first result that looks close enough, and just like that, you've adopted a stranger's mystery recipe as scientific fact. It's less a nutrition database and more a crowdsourced guess wearing a lab coat it found in a costume shop. Act 4, and this is the big one, you are a surprisingly unreliable narrator of your own life, calorie-wise. In a genuinely wild study, researchers took people who swore up and down they were eating almost nothing and still not losing weight, people who insisted they were basically living on rice cakes and sadness, and measured their actual energy use using a gold standard method involving specially labeled water that tracks exactly how much energy the body burns. The participants had reported eating around 1,000 calories a day. Their real intake, measured objectively, was closer to twice that, roughly 1,000-calorie gap between the story and the science. Nobody lied on purpose. This is the part that should feel oddly comforting rather than shaming. It wasn't willpower, it wasn't dishonesty, it was human memory quietly doing what human memory does, forgetting the handful of chips, rounding down the pasta, completely disappearing the 2 cookies that never technically happened in your memory, even though they absolutely happened in your stomach and, arguably, your soul. Act 5. Your treadmill is a chronic overachiever with a lying problem. Ever finish a workout, see 600 calories burned light up in triumphant green letters, and feel like a small god? One study comparing cardio machines to actual lab-grade measurement of energy expenditure found ellipticals overestimating burn by as much as 42%, treadmills by around 13%, stair climbers by 12%, and stationary bikes by 7%. The machine doesn't know your fitness level, your muscle mass, or whether you were secretly leaning on the handrail like it owed you money. It's just running a generic formula and handing you a participation trophy dressed up as science. Act 6, and this is the one that breaks the whole system a little bit, in a fun way. The number on any food label comes from a 100-year-old method invented by a 19th-century chemist who assumed your body absorbs every calorie identically, which it just doesn't. Government-funded research on almonds found people actually absorbed meaningfully fewer calories from a serving than the label claimed, roughly 20% fewer, largely because some of the fat stays trapped inside the nut's fibrous structure and exits the body the same way it came in, unabsorbed and completely unbothered by the whole ordeal. Similar findings have shown up with other nuts, cashews included, so two different people can eat the same 100 calories and genuinely extract different amounts of usable energy from it, depending on digestion, cooking method, and honestly, a bit of biological luck. So here's the verdict from this entire kitchen courtroom. The system is inaccurate, inconsistent, occasionally overachieving, occasionally underachieving, and somehow still not completely useless. Here's the twist ending nobody sees coming. Calorie counting still works reasonably well for a lot of people, not because the numbers are precise, but because the errors tend to repeat themselves in roughly the same direction every day. If your label runs consistently 8% low and your treadmill consistently runs 15% high, you're not getting an accurate number, but you are getting a consistent one. And consistency, it turns out, is what your body actually responds to over weeks and months, not the flawless precision of any single number on any single day. Think of it less like a court of law demanding an exact verdict, and more like a weather forecast. Nobody expects the forecast to be perfect down to the minute, but 70% chance of rain, roughly, is still useful enough to grab an umbrella. Calorie counting is the same deal, a decent approximation wearing the confident costume of an exact science. And honestly, that costume is doing a lot of heavy lifting for an industry built on numbers nobody can actually pin down. So no, you weren't secretly cheating, your granola bar wasn't secretly the villain, your treadmill was just having main character syndrome, and that app database was quietly trusting a stranger's questionable lasagna. The real skill was never memorizing a perfect number, it's noticing the trend, staying roughly consistent, weighing yourself more than you weigh your almonds, and forgiving yourself for the 2 cookies your memory conveniently forgot to file into evidence.